I'm thinking about this and I'm like, I am my own bottleneck. And I literally talk to my clients about how are you being the bottleneck in your business? We're actually talking about that inside Rewired Retail. It's one of our month themes. And we're going to really dig into like, how are you being the bottleneck in your business? How are you preventing yourself from seeing more sales, having the growth, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, doing something before it's perfect, not going back and tweaking the website for the 5,000th time when no one's coming to your website anyway?
Real quick before we jump in, if you're pitching retailers but second guessing what to say, when to say it, or how to follow up without feeling like you're being totally annoying, you need the Buyer Side Pitch Kit. It arms you with everything you need to confidently pitch all types of retailers, from independent boutiques to mid-size to big box stores, because yes, they all expect something a bit different and at different times. You're going to get the Buyer Side Pitch Pal, which is your own AI pitch assistant trained by me, a seasoned corporate and independent retail buyer, to write your pitch and follow-up emails for you in your unique brand voice. Plus, you're going to get an entire kit of buyer back strategies, perfectly timed pitch plans, and plug and play email templates that sound just like your brand, but maybe just a bit more polished and a bit more persuasive. You're also going to get 2 awesome bonuses, the follow-up formula and a pitch cadence calendar, so you can map out exactly what to send and when to send it and when to follow up. The Buyer Side Pitch Kit will absolutely make pitching so much easier for you. And the best part, it's not even $100. So just hit the link in the show notes or DM me Pitch Kit on Instagram at Kristen Fisher Coaching, and I will send it your way. All right, now let's get into the chat.
We are really at the buyer side chat right now. I am sitting here recording this in my pajamas. I have not looked in the mirror yet. The first reflection of my face that I'm seeing today is myself in this camera. And am I kind of regretting it, or I'm going to regret it later? Maybe. But I'm also realizing that's the phase of life that I'm in right now. And also, it's actually kind of a fun play on the buyer side chat, because originally the buyer side chat name came from me thinking about fireside chat. And so here we are. Maybe I should make this a thing where I just come here in my PJs and share the video. The only video anybody's going to really even see will be the reels that I pull out from this. So, whatever. I was rocking my daughter to sleep this morning for her first nap of the day. And I was thinking about this podcast episode, and I'm like, I got to record this. Normally I have a few episodes batched out, so I'm a little bit ahead. Feels less stressful. Lately, I'm recording it right before it goes live, which is totally fine, but I'm a perfectionist, and that can sometimes give me a little bit of anxiety. Like, who can relate to that? And as I was sitting there thinking about the topic, I think part of it is like, wasn't recording the episode because I kept thinking, okay, by the time I shower and get ready, I need to look presentable because it's going to turn into content. And I want that content to be, resonate well with my audience. And I want them to think that I'm just showing up in my pajamas and everything has to be perfect and ticked and tied and whatever before I can actually do it. But now I don't really have the luxury in this stage of motherhood. My daughter is 5 months. She just turned 5 months. And I don't really have the luxury of showering and putting makeup on and doing my hair and coming down and recording a podcast. I just can't do all of that in one setting. Like, it just doesn't work that way anymore. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I had a topic that I was planning on talking about, which I might just move to the next episode because I still think it's relevant. I wanted to talk about your results from Fair Market, and if you went to Atlanta Market, these early initial markets for the season and what those results tell you and indicate for you and what to do about it for the rest of the holiday season. I still think that's a relevant topic. So I'm still going to talk about that. But as I was putting Avery down for a nap, I was just thinking about this idea of perfectionism and how I feel like I'm in the early stages of becoming a recovering perfectionist. I really thought that I had worked through that. If I'm being honest, I thought I was in a better place, but I knew motherhood was going to teach me a lot about life and how I show up and how I speak to myself internally and work. I knew work was going to shift. It was actually the thing I was most worried about was, am I going to ever be able to work again? What's that going to look like? How am I going to get anything done? Because I knew from all of my friends that are moms, all my clients that are moms, I knew that I just was going to have a big shift, a big learning curve there. And I have, right? So the biggest thing is this idea of everything needed to be perfect. And I never really thought that it needed to be perfect, but I had created this new definition of what perfect looked like to me. So for me, I was feeling like perfection looked like the people out there that I aspire to be, the creators that have been doing it longer than me, the educators that have, full teams helping them build out their courses and running ads for them and showing up with like these really polished YouTube videos and all these things. And I'm like, that my idea of perfection is that. So my standard of perfection is really high. When I actually realized I have like a secondary layer of perfectionism that's happening, that's been kind of running the show for me. And it's preventing me from moving forward, or has been preventing me from moving forward. And the last couple of weeks, I would say in the last month, meaning like when Avery turned about 4 months, I was more, I would say like in flow with work. That's probably where I'm going with that. More in flow with work. Rewired Retail is in its now second month, and I've been creating content for them and really having fun diving into that. And it's brought up all these new ideas, creative ideas for new AI tools that I've been building for them, and just thinking about the strategy and the mindset together and supporting them in that way. And as kind of an overflow, it's given me some new ideas for the Fair Bootcamp and the Back Pocket. And so I've been doing a lot of creation, and I've just been taking action and making it, doing the things that I've just been like maybe a year ago thinking, oh, that'd be cool to do someday. Let me think about it. Let me think about how I could set it up. What's the plan look like? What's the workflow look like? I'm going to do that whenever I get this, and this done first. And this, and this would be something that's like not that big of a deal. But I always had to have this like perfect workflow figured out, the perfect timing, have it delivered perfectly. But lately, especially in the last 4 weeks for me, I don't have the luxury of time. And so I have had to just take fast action and just figure it out and put it out there. And case in point is this podcast episode. I have zero notes. I don't like to script podcast episodes. I don't do well reading from a script. It doesn't feel genuine for me. And it actually like trips me up a little bit. I like to just kind of riff. So going into a podcast, will do some research. I will make a little framework just so I have some notes so I don't go completely off topic like I'm probably doing here. And then I'll just kind of follow that as I just riff on the topics. Today, I have literally nothing written down because I had a whole other episode planned, but I've been avoiding doing this episode because I don't know, something was holding me back and I didn't feel that I had the time to like get myself pulled together. And I'm realizing I have just lately been stripping away this idea of needing to be perfect because doing so has made me not put new content out at the pace in which I have the ideas. And I'm thinking about this and I'm like, I am my own bottleneck. And I literally talk to my clients about how are you being the bottleneck in your business? We're actually talking about that inside Rewired Retail. It's one of our month themes. And we're going to really dig into like, how are you being the bottleneck in your business? How are you preventing yourself from seeing more sales, having the growth, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, doing something before it's perfect, not going back and tweaking the website for the 5,000th time when no one's coming to your website anyway. Oh, I actually should be making myself uncomfortable by figuring out ads and getting people to actually come to my website. Right? It's like putting the chicken before the egg. Is that the right phrase? I think it is. Doesn't really matter. The point is, how are you the bottleneck in your business? And I could go a couple different ways on this, but I really think that perfectionism is something that majority of the people that I talk to struggle with. If you're a small business owner, if you have a brand, if you have a retail shop, a website, if you own any type of business, or even if you don't own a business, although no one is listening to this if you don't, but even just thinking back to my corporate life, I was trying to have everything be perfect because I knew everything I should be doing. And when you know the full path, when you have the full path in front of you, it can get really overwhelming. And you see all these steps and it's like, how in the world am I going to actually get to all of these things? So then you just don't even get to the first thing. And then you just miss all the opportunity. You miss the creative juice that was flowing when you got the idea. And so I'm going to keep it focused on, I don't know, keep it this a tight episode, and I just wanted to drop in here and just kind of prompt you this week on thinking about, where are you practicing your own version of perfectionism? And do you have multiple levels or multiple layers to your own version of perfectionism? So, like I was saying for myself, I have this idea of perfect, what perfect actually looks like in business, in my business. And you might have the same. You might say, okay, perfect to me is when I hit X amount of revenue, that's meaning that to me, that means that I figured it all out. Perfect could look like a really large nationwide brand that you're like, this is what I want to be. I want to be this level of a brand. I want my product in X amount of stores. And that is a really large number that you know is going to happen someday, but it's a little bit of a ways off. So for me, that like premium level of perfection is the only level of perfection I thought that I had in my mind. And I'm like, well, I've recovered myself from being a perfectionist because I'm not trying to be that right now. That is aspirational for me. I'm not trying to have everything be perfectly polished and everything. I'm not trying to pretend that that's what I am right now. Do I want to be that way in some future state? Yes, sure. That sounds great. But I completely like missed the plot or like missed the fact that I had then created another layer of what perfectionism looked like in my current state. And I've been holding myself to this standard that isn't realistic with my new reality of being a mom, being postpartum. And I hope that that's not triggering for anybody listening. You know, if you've been around for a while, you know, I went through 6 years of infertility. And so it took us 7 years to get Avery here, earthside, and she's so beautiful and perfect. But it's definitely teaching me a lot. And so I also just want to hold space and be sensitive to that. You don't need to have a baby, have a child to come up against these pressure points in your business and your life. I was always really sensitive to that whenever people would say, well, if you're not a mom, you don't get it. Oh gosh, that just makes me cringe. Really is triggering for me because of course I don't get it, but I would love to get it, right? So I hear you. I see you if that is something that is triggering in this episode. But know that it's not just related to that. I was talking to a client recently about raising the water levels or the rising tide in your business, the rising of the water level. And I use that metaphor in relation to, as your business grows, more things come on your plate, more tasks come on your plate. You're busier, you have more that you're doing regularly. You no longer have that breathing room in your business because you used to have these highs and lows in your business where the low was low enough that you didn't have much that you were forced to do. You had some breathing room. You could take the vacation. You could work on the business growth tasks, whatever. And you did that. And as a result, your business grew. And now you still have the peaks and valleys in your business, but the valleys aren't as low. So you're never feeling that relief. So we were talking about that for her in regards to how she's scaling. And that ties into this idea of perfectionism. As the water level of your business grows, meaning your revenue has grown, your output has gone along with it, but you haven't changed how you're working. You don't have necessarily a team. You don't have to have a team. You might, though, from a fulfillment perspective or production perspective, whatever your business might look like. but your expectations on yourself have to shift and have to evolve. And your idea of perfectionism has to change. And when I think of all the clients that I work with that are dealing with this, I think about how much missed opportunity is there just because we are sitting in our own way of trying to be perfect. How much are we blocking? How much good are we blocking coming to us as a result of needing to do things in this perfect way, whatever perfect means for you? There are probably things on your to-do list that you have deemed, I must do these in order to be checking all the boxes in my business. But are all those things actually necessary? Are they all important? Are they all moving the needle? And no, not everything that we have to do has to be this big needle moving activity. That is not realistic. Like, wouldn't that be great if all we had to do was just show up every day and design and strategize and pitch and focused on just on the revenue, everything else just magically got done? That would be nice. But where are you creating bottlenecks in your business? And where are you creating deadlines and this idea of everything needs to be perfect before I do it? Where are you doing that in your business? Because you are the only person that sets those goals. You're the only person in your business that determines what has to be done, what perfect looks like. So, where are you setting unrealistic deadlines on yourself? Where are you setting unrealistic expectations on yourself? And how are you determining what perfect looks like? And then how are you holding yourself to that level, that standard of excellence? I'm not saying we want to slack off, but we are human. We're not perfect. And we're not striving for perfectionism. We're striving for growth. That is the goal. So no matter what you're walking through right now, are you growing? If you're listening to this in real time, I think we're like right at the tail end of Fair Summer Market. I don't even know what the date is right now. I'm just showing up and recording. We're at the tail end of the fair market. And you might be like, this is the best fair market I've ever had. Awesome. What did you do to make this a best fair market for you? What does that look like? What have you done? Capture it right now so that you can repeat that and make it better for the next market. If you're like, it is god awful, it's been crickets. I put all this new product up. I'm so proud of my photography. It's crickets. Okay. Let's first say, how does that compare to what you did for the last market? Is it better? Did you not have new product up in time last year? So let's count that as growth. Let's celebrate the fact that you moved the needle there, but you're not seeing sales. So that indicates, okay, I have opportunity to do more pitching. And maybe the new product isn't as important as the pitching. Make some shifts, but don't beat yourself up about whatever is happening that you should have been doing. Because chances are the person that's saying this is my best fair market ever, you also are probably like, it's my best fair market ever, but I didn't do XYZ, but it could have been better. But. We always like to throw in the but at the end of, of a success moment because we're always striving for a level of perfection that is just out of reach. We're always moving our own goalposts. So how can you join me in Recovering Perfectionists Anonymous? Like, how can we do this together? Because it's human nature when you are a little bit type A, maybe a lot type A, but whether you're type A, type B, whatever, you run a business, you have pressure that you put on yourself, on these undue pressures that you can tweak and you can adjust and give yourself some grace but just reflecting on where are you striving for perfectionism? What does perfectionism mean to you truly? Not just in that big future state of your business where you ultimately see your business going, but right now in your day to day. And how can we strip that away? I'm recording this podcast episode in my pajamas. Haven't looked in the mirror today. Never done this before. Maybe I have when I was like recording in my closet. I've definitely done it when I used to record in my closet. But, I'm just thinking about done is better than perfect. And that's such an old phrase that I've heard a million times, but now it just means a little bit more. And I don't mean done, rushed, crappy content. I'm not rushing to put a podcast episode out just to say I put it out. But I want to get a topic out that I know is relevant. And I want to get that in your earbuds, right? As soon as I can. That's why I'm just skipping ahead and just putting this out there without even spending the time. I've even bypassed spending the time to frame out this episode so that I don't ramble. Maybe I should have done that, but should've, would've, coulda, right? Should've, woulda, coulda. I didn't do it because I wanted to get this out there for you. So I'm not trying to do all the things I normally do because I don't have time for that right now. But I still want to get you content that I know will resonate with you. So how can you take that into your own business and join me on this path of just doing the thing? What is the thing in your business that you've been avoiding because it needs to be perfect? I can tell you right now, one of the things is probably pitching those bigger retailers or pitching dream retailers, whether they're big or small, it doesn't really matter. You're probably waiting until your website looks perfect, your line sheet's perfect, you've done this new photography, whatever. And in some cases, if your photography looks amateur and your brand looks amateur, then yeah, maybe wait until you look like you would make sense in their store. But usually that's not the case. Usually you're good enough. And if they like your product, they're going to buy it, whether your website's perfectly done or not. So I will leave you with that. And I'll see you inside the next episode, the next chat, where we're going to talk about what you can do in your business right now, whether things are going well or not, to really maximize the holiday selling window. I started talking about it a little bit in this episode already, but this felt like a more timely and probably needed episode. I'd love to hear your feedback. Come find me in the DMs at Kristen Fisher Coaching. Let me know what's going on with you. And if you want to just be brave and share where perfectionism has shown up for you and what you're doing about it, I would love for you to do that. I'd love for you to do that because that will also help to hold me accountable for me to continue my journey of dropping the perfectionism act. Maybe I should add a subliminal audio for Rewired Retail on this. I think that I'll do that because I think that would be super helpful. Anyways, all right, I'll see you inside the next chat.
Hey friend, quick question for you. Are you feeling stuck with how to get your brand to stand out on Faire? I'm asking you because as a buyer myself, I can tell you that there are just so many brands out there vying for the attention of these buyers, but I know that your brand has something so special and it needs to be seen. I put together a private podcast for you that goes deeper into what buyers are really looking for on the Faire platform and how you can stand out from the crowd to grow your wholesale business and really land those dream buyers. So if this resonates with you, head to the link in the show notes for instant access. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today. If you are loving the show, I would be so beyond grateful if you would rate and review the podcast and share it with one of your biz besties to help spread the word. I hope that you absolutely crush your sales this week. I'll be back to chat with you next Monday.